Welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Good to see everybody. 1 second. Just need to fix something here. If you can hear me, please put a 1 in the chat. Make sure my settings are good. I'm having an issue. Let me try it. Let's see. That's still not working. For some reason, I can't pull up the chat. Usually I'll pull up the chat and it pops up in the bottom little corner of your guys' comments. For some reason, I don't know if it's on Google Chrome side or my Streamlabs, but I cannot seem to figure it out. Obviously, I just was made aware of it about 10 minutes ago, or I would have spent more time. So unfortunately, it's not a big deal. We can get by, but so if anybody donates or when we pull up comments, I guess I'm just going to have to pull the whole entire chat over and then do it that way, just for tonight's show. Like I said, it's not a big deal, but it's weird. I've never had that. The entire time I've used this particular program, I've never had an issue with pulling up comments, but clearly there was an update or something and it's not working. So anywho, so welcome, anybody who's new to the channel. I'm Chris, Monsters Under a Bed. We cover true crime mystery to the missing. Today, throughout the week, we've been covering Delphi, a little more in depth with the witness statements and some other things. And then if you missed it, actually yesterday's show, we switched gears and we covered the Stephen Smith case because there was kind of a recent update, which was kind of exciting because we got to hear from the medical examiner. So if you missed that show and you're familiar with Stephen Smith, after the show, I would go check that out. It's very interesting to hear what the medical examiner had to say about Stephen Smith's second autopsy. All right, so before we get started, we always like to feature the missing at the beginning of the show. So today we have someone we featured many times before, but thought we'd feature her again. This is Madalena Kojakari. She went missing last year, literally almost a year ago, November 21st, from Cornelius, North Carolina. This is a very sad case. From what I understand, the theory is that she could have been sold off. I think that was a statement that came from her grandmother. I think the parents, or one of them, had done some recent time, and yeah, it doesn't look good. I mean, let's hope she's still alive, but anyway, yeah, missing over a year. Madalena Kojakarli. So, with that, we will switch gears and let me get that out. And yeah, so today, what I'm going to do is I broke down, so there's a lot of footage that was out there of different sources, and I'll put those sources, I just didn't get a chance, but I will. I'll put them in the description right after the show if you're interested. A lot of them come from the same source, which is Indie Archive. But basically, we're going to do a timeline, but with the actual place instead of just using an overhead map, if that makes sense. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to see it from this point of view, the timeline broken down. And I just want to quickly shout out. God, it's going to be a pain in the butt because I'm so used to clicking on a name and it popping up. But thank you, Sandy Hurd, for becoming a member and sponsoring the show. I really appreciate that. You are so awesome. And one more here before we get started. Alan Hinkle gifted one Mob Crew membership. Looks like Boo Sheet was the one. That's awesome. Good to see you guys. Thank you, Alan, for gifting a membership. That is so awesome of you. All right, guys, let's get started. And then, of course, for those that weren't here yesterday, if you did celebrate it, I hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And let's see here. Let's get going. Okay. So, let me pause this here and make sure I get it to the right screen here. So most of the footage we're going to take is from Indie Archive. They have a I think they even have a website, but they also have a YouTube channel. I'm assuming a local. And he's done a lot of footage of the drive there, the bridge, some drone footage. Absolutely amazing. So we used quite a bit of his footage. We used some of Steve's footage. He's also obviously from True Crime Web. And then we just kind of put in the timeline. So assuming since Richard Allen's car was seen on the camera heading westbound, westbound on the Country Road 300 North at 127, and let's just say he left from his house, he would have had to take this route. Now, you could say he was maybe coming from somewhere east, but either way, he would have ended up where we're going to start with the video, which is crossing this Wilson Bridge, and then would take him to eventually the old CPS building, obviously past the Hoosier Harv store camera and all that. So let's get going. So here is what it would look like if you were to take that drive. And starting off would be that Wilson Bridge, which obviously this would go over right over the Deer Creek. And notice it looks like it's just a one-lane bridge there. Now I do have it sped up here. But I do slow it down on some of the more important landmarks here. But so this would be a nice, beautiful drive. And it looks like he's also got what you're seeing in the bottom right is he's got, looks like he's filming, he's got a camera inside the car, and then he's also got a dash cam, I guess 2 cameras inside the car, but he's got a dash cam from at one angle. He's basically got 2 angles going. So anyway, it looks like he's kind of following this guy here, and we are just about to past the cemetery. So this is 300 North Country Road, and as we approach, we see the Mears Farm to the right, and on our left here, where this car is going to eventually take a left, will be the cemetery. So yeah, right here on our left is, I think, Morning Heights Cemetery. So just kind of interesting. Looks like that's where this person was going. So there's kind of a look at it. And it looks like this guy took this drive kind of early. I think it was like 5 or 6 a.m. that this drive he's taking right now. Then he puts up some, looks like some historic information here. Then, as we get a little closer, we've got the infamous Mears Farm. We've heard the Mears entrance mentioned many times, as that's where Libby and one of the witnesses parked. And that would be right here, where that gate is. Apparently you could get, I can't remember they'd say like get about like 6 cars in there or something like that. So here's a look at that at that time. Obviously the footage that we're seeing is from 2022, so obviously it's 5 years been with the parking lot, just kind of a small parking lot. And this would take you right to where the trail splits, the 501 trail and the, was it 503, 505 trail, the 2 trailheads. And I noticed Steve was wondering, it'd be cool to see how, what it would look like at the old CPS building, and we will look at that. But this is what's really important. So this is where, now it's not there anymore. This building still is. The Hoosier Harv store apparently is now a little bit more north. but this would be where the camera would be set up. And I believe, and this is just my opinion, I really wish this Hoover's or Harv's store wasn't here because it kind of blocks it. But you can almost see something right here, almost like maybe like the mounting bracket to where the security camera once was placed. Now that's just purely speculation on my part, of course. But I couldn't notice anything else on the building that looked kind of like out of place. So it's possible that's where the camera could have been placed, but I'm assuming somewhere on the front of this. But this would be where Richard Allen would be, or allegedly, depending on where you sit, would be where he would be captured. And I like where this camera is placed, if that is where it's at, because that's fairly close to the road. So he would be captured at 127. Or you could say a black Ford Focus that looked like his car passed, depending on where you stand. But I think it's a good possibility that could be where the camera was at. So now we approach the curve here. Just behind that house is the circle to the Freedom Bridge, the east side of the Freedom Bridge. I thought that was very interesting because it actually sits lower than where the road is. I didn't really know that before. And I knew that it was fairly concealed with all these trees and everything. And because that kind of goes into one of my theories that we'll talk about in a bit. But here we would take that turn. But yeah, I don't, in my opinion, let me know what you guys think in chat, but I don't think, and this is just kind of in the defense of Richard Allen, obviously he mentions he saw 3 juveniles, and if you were going to go for the defense side, to make it all make sense with him caught on camera going westbound at 127 and seeing the girls, the only way he could all that for it to work he would have to see him as he was passing them. But in my opinion, and now seeing how kind of the road is much higher, and then obviously with all these obstacles with the trees, and then I doubt you're going to be looking this way when you're taking this, and this actually doesn't even do it quite justice, but it is quite a sharp bend. So I think you'd be paying attention to the road as you would approach. So I don't think he witnessed the girls as he was passing by. Hey, Starkwire. No, I just started. You're not missing anything. So now this is where, and this is just approximate of where the car would have been backed in, and I'm curious to get your guys' opinion, and I'll ask it here in just a second, but we'll go down the witness statements real quick one more time. But obviously the building would have been here. This was, even though it's got the stamp 2023, this video was taken in 2022. But obviously the CPS building's no longer there, but it still has the kind of the dirt driveway and then the little path that takes you to the Freedom Bridge. So that is where the suspicious car would have been backed in. But what would it have looked like in 2017? And Dee was asking that earlier, and I did find footage. But this is what it would look like if Richard Allen or the suspect, depending on where you stand. This is the best footage I could find of what it looked like. This was February 14th, one day after the terrible tragedy. So here is that same parking lot or little dirt road that the car just pulled into. Obviously, there's kind of like a little road kind of goes to the west side of the building, but the descriptions they said the car was parked on the south side of the building, so this would be the south side. So my question would be, with all the witnesses saying that they saw it backed in, and so here's a look at all the witnesses. We have the one witness, Terry. He sees at 2:10 what looks like a PT Cruiser. Now remember, he just says it looks like a PT Cruiser or a small SUV, possibly purple, but he says it's backed in. Then at 2:15, Betsy. Now in the original probable cause, they didn't mention what car she saw. They just mentioned that she had seen a suspicious car backed in as well. And these two, both Terry and Betsy, they both drew diagrams and both had the cars in similar places. And then we have a second Mel, which I need to correct something. He also was driving past at 2:28 and he saw something that was dark that looked similar to a smart car. Now remember, he doesn't say specifically a smart car, he just says it could be possibly a smart car. And he also said it was oddly parked. But I realized I did get one thing wrong with Wesley, which is Mel 2. Is actually, he wasn't on the country road heading northwest bound. He was actually on the Hoosier Highway. So he was actually on this Hoosier Highway when he saw the car. But if you haven't been here for a couple days, where is the Old Farm Bureau? Gosh, I wish I could pull up my comments. It sucks. Somewhere it kind of says, where's the Old Farm Bureau? This is what they believe Richard Allen was talking about. Is this building here? It's the CPS building. Anywho, but yeah, one thing that we caught obviously is that all the witnesses mentioned, so you could actually pretend like this was the second male witness, Wesley, and the car was like parked here, and he saw it as he was heading to Delphi. But none of the witnesses mentioned seeing the vehicle when they were heading east or southbound on this road. They always mentioned it when they were leaving, which means it had to have been concealed. Obviously, it's too bad we're not at ground level to see, but I'm sure these trees or shrubs, they're fairly, at least fairly tall, and would have concealed if the car was like kind of parked here. But when they say backed in, I wonder if they mean it was backed in sitting here, and I'll show you. So I want to know in chat. Let me know what you guys think. When the witnesses say they saw it backed in, do you think they mean, and put a 1 if you think it's this position, or 2 if you think he actually backed in between these bushes here? So let me know in chat what you guys think. But all the witnesses more or less said it was backed in, parked suspiciously. Let's see. Alan thinks 1, and I'll go back as well. D says 2. Cunningham says 2. So 1 if you think that way. 2 if you think that one. Kind of curious. Sandy says 2. I would think, yeah. I mean, if you've got that space, and it does look like there's plenty of space, because yeah, you would conceal. And I'm starting to think that is where he parked, because the male witness, when he's driving by, he says it's backed in, which I thought was interesting. So, and he would be coming this way. So if it was parked this way, it'd be weird that he mentioned it that way. So anyway, so a lot of 2s, a couple of 1s, a couple of 2s. Brent says the way he parked, his car shows premeditation. I totally agree. Now, of course, I don't have footage of that year, but here's what it would look like. So obviously, Alan or the suspect, depending on where you stand, would now obviously exit the vehicle. It would probably be just a little after. When building this video, I had some issues and my time kept getting erased. So this would have probably been about 1:35 because I'm assuming he would have parked. It would took time to park for a minute. And then the girls would have been here already, and they take a picture at gosh, what is it, 129? And then shortly after that is when they see the supposed suspect. So this is what it'd look like when the encounter happens. Now, Alan or the alleged suspect would have had his head down, although Alan mentioned seeing 3 juveniles. So if it was Alan, even though there was 4 juveniles there, could be because if he had his head down and he was in a rush, he may have not have noticed all 4 girls and he just saw 3 out of the 4. But this is kind of where they would all kind of meet up. Oh, let me back up. And so, yeah, she says took a picture at 1:26, and then shortly after they'd be leaving. So this would be, between about 1:35, 1:40, I think. And so you have 2 sisters, the Voorhees sisters, and then you have Bree and Anna. Of course, they all gave descriptions, more or less describing the same thing. Blue jeans, blue jacket. For the most part, they all matched up. Riley, she said that was black hoodie, black jeans, black boots. Maybe she had kind of got a bad angle, or maybe the sun, or maybe the clouds were out at that point. Maybe kind of got not as a good look as the other girls, and so it looked maybe because blue and black, depending on the lighting, especially if it's kind of a dark blue, could be mistaken for black. But here's all the witnesses and the colors they mention, and most of them mention blue jeans, blue jacket. Bree actually mentions blue and black. She says blue or black, but I think it's possible because we believe he was wearing a hoodie underneath, that it could have been a black hoodie, and so that's why maybe she mentioned blue. And then on top of that, of course, Alan himself stated that he was wearing a blue jeans and then a blue or black Carhartt jacket with a hood on that day. So there's the meetup, and so then we're going to continue here. Hey, Jill, good to see you, guy. Gosh, I want to be able to pull this up. That's so weird. It doesn't work. So obviously the 4 juveniles, they would continue onto the bridge, and about that time is when one of our biggest witnesses, Betsy, would be driving under this bridge on the Hoosier Highway, and she would spot the 4 juveniles walking across the bridge. And this would happen sometime around 1:43, 1:45 approximately. So she would be driving the Hoosier Highway, and then she would obviously come park in the Mears parking lot. At the same time, then we have Alan or suspect now walking with a purpose towards the bridge. And I think almost about that same time, And as we look, this is where the trailhead is. This is where Mir's parking lot would. You're looking at Mir's parking lot right here, and this is a view from the other way. So I think as he's pretty much approaching that split, I think Betsy had just gotten done driving around. Because keep in mind, I kind of fast forward some things because I don't want to take all day. She's spotted on the camera at 1:46, so I think she would have arrived at the parking lot at 1:47. And so she's arriving, of course, and then we switch back to Alan or the suspect. And of course, there's the memorial there. If you guys didn't know, the trailhead is called 501 because it's 501 steps. And then you have the, was it 505? Yeah, 505 for 505 steps. Chris Parsons, no one has ever found Lark Montauk from Magna, Utah. Any news on her? She just vanished. Same timeline as Susan Powell? I've not heard that name. I'll write that down, Chris. No promises, but I will definitely at least take a look into it. Was the building there where he parked? Yes. Yes. And he apparently called it the Farm Bureau building. So now this would be from Alan's perspective, and now obviously the bridge is obviously what it'll look like this. This is the new remodeled, but this would be supposedly from Alan's statement that he approached the bridge and actually stood near platform 1. According to Alan, he was watching his stock ticker and was going to watch the fish, which I don't know how well with the muddy water, how well you could see fish. So at that same time, so this is, in my opinion, at that same time as he's turning around, there is Betsy, one of our big witnesses, who now just from coming from Mir's parking lot has now approached the beginning of the bridge, and she sees him. We don't know from Alan's perspective because he doesn't mention anything, because he claims he doesn't see anybody else after the original 3 girls. Betsy claims to have seen a slender, youthful-looking man, boyish looks, 20 to early 30s, seemed to have brown, poofy hair, no facial hair that she can remember. And they would release this sketch in April 22, 2019, and would become the primary sketch, which would really cause some issues because it looked, in my opinion, much different from the original, especially with the youthful look to it. But here's kind of a perspective of a man standing on a bridge from about the same distance that she would have seen supposedly the suspect or Alan. And in my opinion, I think it would, I don't know how well you'd be able to make out certain details depending on the distance, but I have a side theory that we've shared the other day, but if you missed it, I will go into that. But let me know in the chat, do you think she would have been able to make out these amount of details? As you can see, it's really hard to see. I mean, the age of this man, obviously he's holding a kid, so you kind of think he's older, but, and then obviously the perspective from a picture than actually being there in real life, there is a difference into that as well. But if I were to zoom in on this picture, it's hard to make out really many details about this guy. So moving on. No, the bridge is only restored to that point. I'm assuming maybe to let the jury bring them out, and of course, just bring him so they can see the bridge. I'm assuming that's why they only fixed it to that far, is just so they can get an idea. Because obviously they're not going to be able to take them all the way down to the crime scene unless they come through the other way. I don't know if they're going to do that. I would think they would done this to at least for the bridge, but I don't know. This may not even been for the jury. This just may have been for public safety. So now Betsy would be leaving, of course. And as she's leaving, the girls would have arrived. Libby and Abby. And sometime around about this point, Libby and Abby would be now walking to the bridge. And I think just after she passed Betsy, she would have probably, or they would have probably passed Alan shortly after. Now, there's two theories. One is that Alan or the suspect walked past them and then decided those were the targets. I think I agree with that one the most. The second theory would be instead of Alan or the suspect walking back, he actually walked to the end of the bridge on the other side. And then when those two girls got towards the edge, or towards the end of the bridge, he passed them first and then turned around, which is totally possible. But I think he saw these two girls. I think he continued walking back, and then just to see if anybody else was coming, and to see if the coast was clear. I think Alan knew this area, and knew that this was going to be basically a dead end. That these girls were going to go to the bridge and come back. Clearly, this suspect knew that this was. Even though it's technically not a dead end, it's just there's private property on the other side. But he would have had them pinned in. Starkweather, or I always want to mix those words together. Rottweilers, thank you so much. Great work as always, Chris. You've been analyzing this. Oh, my mouse is in the way. Analyzing this so well. Love Meg. Thank you so much, Meg. Thank you so much for the $10. You are so awesome. I'm sorry I can't highlight it. All I can do is kind of put it up there. But thank you so much, Starkweather. Candy says, but Betsy didn't see Ellen on the bridge before she left there. Betsy didn't see Ellen on the bridge before she left there. Well, she saw somebody. Obviously, this is where the sketch came from. She approached the bridge and saw somebody standing on platform 1. Now, it depends on where you stand with all this, but that's where she saw the suspect. So then, of course, the girls would continue walking. And at the same time, of course, Alan or the suspect would be gaining ground on the two girls, sadly. And as you can see here, platform 6 is on the left right there. That's platform 6. So right, just waiting for him to walk a little bit more. So about right here is when that video would have started. And so this is where this video at 2:13 would have started. and he would approach them. It would have been just standing off to the side here. Of course, we did go over the little bit of transcript that we know was said. And of course, guys down the hill. Basically, down the hill is kind of the last few words that were said on the video before it supposedly ends. It's supposed to be 43 seconds. As you can see, it's too bad if the girls just did not, unfortunately, just not go. Obviously, a gun's pulled on them. You can't blame them. But it's just too bad that if they just would have went straight, literally homes right here. It's terrible to think about. Chris' motive. Oh, man. Nothing good, I'll be honest with you. With the clothing issue, I think there was intent to, essay, in my opinion. But that, of course, that's just my opinion. But I think they fought, and they weren't going to go quietly, and sadly things got out of hand, and yeah. So of course they would cross the creek. Now I think the water level, this is taken in 2022. Now we're not gonna focus much on the crime scene, because we've done that a couple weeks ago. So I mean we're still gonna look at it, but I'm not gonna go into the details about it because we've talked about that a lot. But this is the area where they would have crossed. I think the water level would have been slightly a little bit higher. Because obviously you see a lot more land in the middle, which you couldn't in the original helicopter footage. But obviously would have had to cross that. They measured it. It's at kind of the deeper ends. It's about 3.5 feet in certain areas when crossing. And so where you see that yellow thing here, that's kind of like the GPS coordinates that they give. Okay, sorry. Yeah, there's not to block somebody on there. Yeah, we got him out of there. That's just, we don't need that. So anyway, here's just kind of a look. This is obviously many years. It's taken 2022. Just kind of a look at the area here. Yeah, the audio occurred at a different time in the video. Right. Yeah, we only get a 1 second clip. Obviously, the audio's spliced up. We kind of talked about that, I think, what was it, Wednesday? But here's just kind of a look, where they would have crossed. Clearly coming up that bank, you would have probably gotten, because you would have been soaking wet. You would have gotten muddy. Coming up those banks because there are a lot of parts where they're kind of steep. And this would just be the general area that they were found, sadly. My personal opinion, not to talk too much about the crime scene, because like I said, we've gone over it a lot. My personal opinion, I think with the sticks, I don't think it has anything to do with Odinism. I think he was just trying to cover him up with some sticks and then place leaves on him because if you think about it, you would just see two. If you just use leaves, there would just be two big piles of leaves, and I think it'd look a little suspicious. But as you can see, there's plenty of down logs everywhere, and so if you kind of mix the logs with the leaves, I think it would make more, look a little more normal and blend in. And I think he was beginning to do that, and then something spooked him. Possibly the phone call. The phone was ringing, maybe. Many different theories on that, but in my opinion, that's. And you can see how many sticks. They talk about the one stick being cut up. I think he could probably just found that, not just happen to be something maybe Ron Logan had cut up. So after the terrible tragedy, then he would have obviously Alan or the suspect would have had to exit out. And now we come to our final witness, which is Sarah. So now this is just speculation, of course. But I would assume maybe he came out somewhere around the cemetery area. We don't know exact spot that she saw the suspect, but we just know that he was walking west and he was on the north side of the road. And sometime she's caught on camera at 3:57, so I'm assuming this happened either at 3:57 or 3:58. But she sees a man who is muddy and bloody in the original statement. Obviously, this witness is also a very important witness because she's the one that would come up with this sketch here. Obviously, this was a combination of what she saw and also what was in the video. Now, if you think about it, depending on where he was at, she would have been on the driver's side, so she could have gotten a decent look at him. Now thinking about that, because obviously he's on the north side, unless she's driving a European car. I'm pretty sure she would obviously be on the north side, and so, but obviously we don't know, how close to the road this person was, but she may have gotten a decent look at the suspect, or Ellen. She describes seeing him wearing a blue jacket, blue jeans, and was muddy and bloody. She also stated that it appeared that he looked like he got in a fight. Now, of course, apparently, according to the Frank's motion, that they say that she said that she observed a tan jacket. So, what's the truth? Is it something in the middle? And of course we kind of talked about this on Wednesday, but and I'll show an example here in just a second. Let me play it. But is it possible that she stated that he had blue jeans and what appeared to be a blue jacket, but it was also appeared to be tan, and oops, it's coming by fast. And she did mention like tan or brown as well, because mud would look brown or tan, and so she could have also mentioned, that blue jacket also looked tan, muddy, brown, and so they could be twisting her words. Obviously, we don't know the full context of it, but I think that's a good possibility. That obviously, now pictures that I have is wet mud, so it's not really dry, but it could appear that that this suspect could have had like what appeared to be some tan or brown on him because of the mud. Brand says he got in a fight because those little heroes fought back. I agree. They stuck by each other's side. Casey, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Clearly, he had control over both, so it makes no sense they were on the other side of the river. Yeah, I mean, we don't know what happened in that moment. They did obviously end up on the other side. I think a lot of people theorized that the girls maybe tried to make a run for it, and then he caught up with them, or maybe he just forced them across the river. Um, we may never know. And from here, the only other thing that's really interesting is so obviously he would be walking what we're seeing right now on the right side. This would be where this suspect would be walking. Or Alan. So the question is now, obviously, with the Hoosier camera that would be coming up, the suspect clearly beelined it. And maybe, I'm assuming this would just be my theory. Let me know what you think in chat. But I think after that witness drove by and she, and he saw that the suspect kind of panicked and was like, oh gosh, there's going to be witnesses that'll spot me. So I think after that is where he either beelined it back maybe into the tree line here, or maybe he could have went around the farm. But obviously, he was not caught on the Hoosier camera, which is too bad. Makes me wonder if Sarah didn't drive by. Makes me wonder if the suspect would have just walked the road back and would have been caught on the camera, and this would have been over much sooner. But hindsight's 2020. Thanks, Cunningham. Great coverage of the visual clips. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I can't pull up comments. I'm so mad. But yeah, if you donate or anything and stuff, I'll still kind of pull it up, but I'll just have to do it old school. As you can see on both sides, especially on the left side, there's plenty of trees. I mean, obviously you could dip in a tree line or two and clearly bypass this security camera that was there at the time. So there's just kind of I wanted to do a much more with the timeline. I wanted to have like a timer up, but for some reason, the it wasn't working, and it just makes me mad because I was really trying to get the timeline down. I may further do this or put more work into it and perfect it, but I thought it'd be just interesting because the last time I did a timeline breakdown, it was just using just the 2D overhead map, and then with the little people walking, which I mean still has the same effect, but it's kind of interesting to actually see the visuals. You're welcome, Cassie. I wish I had more of me so I could read all the comments and 4 eyes so I could be watching the chat as well, because I do know I miss a lot of chat. So let's kind of recap. I still got some more stuff that I dug into, especially if you weren't here at the beginning of the week or missed some of the shows. We did kind of touch on some interesting things. One thing that I found that I thought was very interesting, because with this case, there was just so much. Obviously, this case is huge. People have been talking about it since day one, and there was a lot of interesting information from like day one. And it amazes me when I go back and look at some of the stuff that even I either missed or forgot about because it's been so many years. But here's one of them, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. So, Douglas Rice, I don't know much about the guy, but I guess he maybe had like a Facebook group that covered this case and whatnot. Knew quite a bit about the case. Apparently, even talked to some of the witnesses. And if you know about Douglas Rice in the chat, please, if I get anything wrong, please feel free to correct me because I I never really knew much about Douglas Rice or was in the Facebook group. Um, anyway, he apparently talked to one of the younger witnesses or got word. I'm not sure exactly the context, but so what it says here is again, all my questions, etc. All I got, all I really got of value to me is BG is likely in his 40s or 50s and is short. Very important. And he wrote this, we're talking years ago. This might have been the first or second, this might have been the first year. I mean, this is just kind of give you an idea. 40s and 50s and is short. And was seen at the Freedom Bridge around 1:30, which is spot on. And she thought, and now who he's talking about is so you remember there's 4 juveniles that were there. 2 of them were sisters, and I believe the youngest one of the bunch said to her mom that the suspect that she saw, now she admits she didn't get like a great look at him, but she had, I guess, seen this guy, which is Jimmy Duvall, and she told her mom that's who the suspect looked like. Now, obviously, this was posted years ago. And just take a look at Jimmy Duvall compared to Richard Allen. This was years and years ago. And this is by one of the witnesses. Think of this as like her sketch. You know, that's who she says he looked like. And holy moly. I mean, because we know he didn't probably have the beard like that, so the beard was probably like this. But I mean, is that kind of crazy? I mean, for those that I know there's some in here that are not maybe on the fence still. I totally respect that. But isn't that crazy though? I mean, that guy, blue eyes, nose a little bit different. Well, actually, it kind of looks the same in some regards. But yeah, it kind of gives me goosebumps. Kind of wild. Yeah, Casey says he must have known about the cameras. I would think maybe, yeah, for sure. Jocelyn, wow, yeah. Rabbit, Hollow, good to see you. Way too similar. D Mead says, wow, it is crazy. Jimmy, yeah, he was a local to Delphi. So obviously this was a local case. I think it involved a child. So obviously he's a predator as well. I'm not sure. I don't want to be quoted because I just know he's a bad person. I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. But that's crazy. This was mentioned years ago, and it just, it's crazy. And this photo was out there. This was mentioned in Reddit post years ago when the case was still early, and it's crazy. So anyway, which direction should we go here? We've got a couple more things for you guys here. Pickle Toes, yeah, yeah, I like Michelle After Dark. Yeah, she's a good content creator. Some of the recent stuff, you know, um, it's a little. I agree differently on something, or I agree on some things, and then feel differently about others. But she has done great coverage with Summer Wells case, and she does thorough work. So anyway, oh Yeah, and I have to shout out. So I'm so glad. Of course, I can't pull them up. Fix Solves. Yeah, I saw your video. Amazing video. If you guys haven't seen Fix Solves' recent video, amazing. Good song choices as well. One of my favorite songs from The Walking Dead, "Oh, It's in the Water." Kind of gave me goosebumps. Made me want to watch The Walking Dead again. But yeah, what an amazing. And yeah, obviously, I recently watched it and kind of gave me some inspiration to talk about some certain things. But yeah, definitely go check out his video after the live show, of course. But definitely check it out. Um, but moving on, and of course, this was taking a screenshot from yours because I couldn't find the original. But this is Dan Doolin here, and one of the issues that I had, which I don't know, I'd have to probably making a separate show, but so Alan's original statement, I was kind of looking at this because, like I said, this is basically what we've been doing all week. Is I went back and just looked at all the probable cause, all the witness statements. So obviously you've been with me this whole week. We've been breaking everything down and kind of pointed out some interesting things, just like, how all the witnesses noticed, only talked about seeing the car parked at the CPS building when they're leaving, which means that if they were coming from the other way, it was obscured. But in Alan's statement, I also noticed, now obviously we don't know if this is the entire original statement, or if this is just the entirety of the notes that Dan Doolin wrote down. But obviously Richard Allen was interviewed back in 2017. Supposedly he came forward. And he was quoted that, he parked at the old Farm Bureau building, which obviously we believe he meant the CPS building, walked to the new Freedom Bridge. While at the Freedom Bridge, he saw 3 females. He noted one was taller and had brown or black hair. He did not remember the description nor speak with them. And that's what's interesting is if you're going to go with his defense, I think the best defense, because if he's caught on camera at 127, you could say he was driving past and he saw the 3 juveniles, and that's why he mentioned the 3 juveniles. But to be able to actually give some kind of description about them, I think really hurts his chances on that. But anyway, apparently he tells Dan Doolin that he was there from 1:30 to 3:30. Then when he was arrested, obviously he is interviewed by Liggett and Monon, and he claims pretty much the same stuff. Now, obviously in the probable cause, they don't mention that apparently he changes his time that he was there, but he does say, and now this is his statement from when he was, or I guess just before he's arrested, I guess. But when he's brought in on October 13th, he doubles down. He says he saw 3 juvenile girls on the trails east of the Freedom Bridge. He also states that he went out on the Monon Bridge to watch fish. He said he walked out on the first platform on the bridge, which also corroborates with Betsy's statement that she saw a guy on the first platform. Yeah, he stated that he walked back, sat on the bench on the trail, then left. He stated he parked his car on the side of the old building. He told investigators he was wearing, and this is the part that I didn't realize, unless they left it out in the original. But he told investigators that he was wearing blue jeans and a blue or black Carhartt jacket with a hood, which I thought was really interesting because in the original statement, if this is all of the statement, he does not describe what he's wearing. So he actually kind of shoots himself in the foot by not only saying that he's there, but he's actually what he's wearing, which just kind of blows my mind. Unless, like I said, they just left that part out. We just don't know in the original, but thought that was kind of interesting. But the problem with the Frank's motion is that they call that Liggett is a liar because he failed to inform Judge Diner, the original judge, who had to step down, and Judge Gold replaced him. But they're calling they're calling Liggett a liar because Alan said he was there from noon to 1:30 now. But if it was Alan that said he was there originally from 1:30 to 3:30, why wouldn't it be Richard Allen who's the liar? And I know I talked about this before, but I just think it's comical that they would use that to kind of throw Liggett under the bus when it doesn't make sense. It's Allen's statement that he said in the original, in 2017. So anyway, that was kind of comical. Switching gears one more time. So if you missed Wednesday, one last thing I want to leave off on. We'll probably go for another 30 minutes here. Let me get to I missed some things here in chat. Jocelyn, thank you so much for the $4. I'm sorry I can't highlight it. I will get my OBS fixed next live show. And Rainy Days, thank you so much for the $2. I spent a lot of time putting those videos together, so it really means the world for the support. Thank you guys so much. Melissa says, I don't trust Toby. I guess I'd have to know more context about that, but where did I see it? Sorry guys, I'm just trying to get my chat fixed here. Anyway, thing I want to finish on is the witness Betsy, who we kind of talked a little bit on Wednesday. So I was trying to look some information up on her, and I don't know if Fig's in here, if anybody in chat knows, but I wonder if this Betsy, this witness, is possibly older, and I only say that because maybe she is retired, and this is a place that she frequents and likes to walk. And it is kind of corroborated that with one of her statements she even mentions. In this statement here, right here, it says, Blair was leaving when she noted a vehicle was parked in an odd manner at the CPS building. She said it was not odd for vehicles to be parked there, but it was odd that it was backed in near the building. She said that vehicles often use the south edge of the parking lot, so they were closer to the trail to get to the Freedom Bridge. So there in itself tells me that this witness, Betsy, seems like she frequents this place often. And the reason I mention that is because I really think it's plausible that if she frequents this place quite often, because one of the anomalies that we have is when it comes to the vehicles, all of them describe something similar. Even she describes it being backed in, but the biggest anomaly is that she says that it looks like a 1965 Ford Comet. And obviously that is much different from the PT Cruiser, small SUV, smart car body type. So it just makes me wonder. And then on top of that, she's also the witness that came up with the Young Guy sketch. So if you missed my theory on Wednesday, I think is when I shared it, is it possible
that because she frequent this area many times, that she is mixing up some memories, and that there was like a Ford Comet that was parked there like days prior to the actual tragedy, and that stuck out in her head, especially since if it was a car that her father owned. And then the same thing, if she has the same routine where she parks at the mayor's parking lot, she walks the trail, she goes to the end beginning of the bridge, and then turns around and then walks back, and that's kind of her routine. That days prior to the tragedy, maybe in the same day, but not on February 13th, she saw this Ford Comet and she saw this guy standing on platform 1. And that is the reason. And so she's confident, but unfortunately, she's just mixing up the days. And really, this person that she saw in the car, even though true, just happened on a different day. Let me know what you guys think in chat. Curious to know, what do you guys think? What could explain the Ford Comet? I mean, all this happened with the witnesses, all happened within from 210 to 228. You had 3 different cars. So we're talking 18, 20 minutes tops. And let's just be honest, I don't think it's plausible that 3 different cars backed up into that place within 18 minutes and had all these different witnesses drive by. So she's the anomaly when it comes to this car. So let me know if you can. I know putting it in the chat's going to be hard. But if you have a theory besides mine, let me know in chat. Really curious. Barbara says yes, different day in my opinion. Because if that was true, that would be huge. That means that the car and the young guy sketch would be irrelevant. And you would just go back to the original sketch and it'd make things so much more simpler. Maria says she must be either off on day or time. Yeah. And she's confident. She says she's 10 out of 10 when it comes to this sketch. And it's pretty, where do I have it here? You know, it's pretty detailed. She's, trying to find where it's at. Oh, there it is. You know, she's saying that, you know, slender, youthful looking, boyish. The man is in his 20s to early 30s. His hair seemed brown, poofy. Most likely no facial hair. I mean, and she's saying, and if for those that missed this, and I'm gonna get to chat for the donations. Thank you guys. But if you didn't know, and if you missed my show the other day, because of her, and I'm not saying I'm blaming her or anything, I'm just saying, let's see. But because of her, or part of her, as you can see, they did probably a second interview, third interview, who knows. But they did an interview 2 years after the case on March 7th. And literally a month later would be the infamous or famous Doug Carter press conference where they would release her sketch. So it sounds like she came in with that interview. And then it is mentioned in the Frank's motion, she says she's 10 out of 10 when it comes to her description, and she doesn't agree with the original sketch. She is that confident. So, to me, the best explanation would be that it's just, she did see that person. It just wasn't the same day, or, I would say an earlier time, but it just sounds like she walked to the bridge and walked back, so it'd have to be a different day. Run the World, thank you so much. I wish I could pull it up. Actually, this is the best thing I can do. I'm sorry. Usually I have a thing where I can pull it up, and but my thing's acting weird. Thank you so much. Thanks for all your hard work. Thank you so much for the $20. That means so much. Really appreciate it. Please show Run the World some love in the chat. um, Cass, I think Toby has made some mistakes in this case that he gets a lot of heat for. I think he can be trusted. Yeah, I think it's kind of easy to point at uh, obviously the investigators, but there is cases where there is corruption. I mean, just look at the Gilgo Beach and that with the police chief. So there are bad apples. So it does happen. Sandy says, I think Betsy is not remembering the model her dad actually had. The PT Cruiser was designed to appear like cars from the 50s and early 60s. Ooh. That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah. Especially if the car was parked in the spot where they would really only see the front of it. Let me go back to my video real quick here. Oops. 2 seconds here. So yeah, pause that. When did I do it? Yeah, so if it was backed in this way, and this would make sense for the witness that was coming this way, because they say it's backed in as well. So, and it would be weird if they said it was backed in if it was facing this way. So I think I agree. A lot of you said 2, and I think I kind of agree with that. I think he did, or the suspect did, back it in between this foliage. So really, if you're coming around, and that would make sense why no one claimed they saw the vehicle when they were arriving and only mentioned it when they're leaving or heading west northbound. And they're really only getting to see like the front of it. And so they don't really get to see how big the body of the car is, how long it is. That would make sense why they're claiming like smart car or PT Cruiser, because they're not really getting the angle of seeing the entire body. And then, of course, with the Ford Focus, the 2016 Ford Focus, so yeah, you would get something like this, except, of course, you're getting more of a front view. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to see how big the body is. And it would look just like these others. Brian, Chris does a great job. Thank you so much. There's plenty of other creators out there who do a great job too. But I I really appreciate it. Brand, thank you so much for the $1.99. I'm sorry I can't highlight it. I'll pull it up here, but thank you so much. I will get my chat fixed here and figure out. It's probably Google didn't update or something here. Yeah, that's weird. It's acting really weird. And then, so let's see. What, did we cover everything that I wanted to talk about? And yeah, like I said, I had to shout out Fig because, yeah, that video was really well done. Especially with the music like that. Both good songs that, huge fan of. Yeah, and then somebody emailed me this. So yeah, this was probably the hoodie that they took, the green hoodie, the green and black. Because we did talk about it's possible that design could have been the Fox hoodie, which I still think could be. It's quite possible he could have owned multiple jackets and probably ditched this one. But yeah, thank you if you ever sent that into my email. This would probably be the one that they took. But Monster and Fox, they've made so many designs, it's crazy. Night Owl, yeah, that hoodie, I got that. It's different in person. I mean, it is, but it's different in advertising pic. Yeah, there's so many. So many. Do do do. Let's see if I missed anything else. Hunter Johnson, I really enjoyed this channel. Thank you so much, Hunter. I know we've been covering a lot of Delphi lately. We do cover other cases. We covered Stephen Smith yesterday, and yeah, that with the latest update. Gail Hurd, maybe she saw GK on a different day. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I see it, Night Owl. I see it, buddy. It's not. It has some splotches and lettering like paint or something. Yeah. Uh, Darkest. I thought Betsy said it was a comment. Yes, she did. Um. Anyway, if you guys can, if you haven't already, please hit that like button. And if you missed it, we just kind of did kind of like a virtual tour. I'm not going to run through it again because I kind of started the show late. Spent a little too much time on it. But I am going to probably do a little bit more. But I do want to leave with this. This is a great picture that came from Fig. And it's so true. This picture is really um, speaks volumes when it comes to working with YouTube. Uh, when conspiracies, man, they do very well, and people love that. I mean, I was into some crazy conspiracies. I can't mention on this channel which ones, but yeah, you get sucked in those rabbit holes, and so I completely understand it compared to just you know the boring truth as this picture depicts it. That's not my words. That's just coming from the image. But in a way, it does speak volumes. We do get sucked into, or a lot of people, I should say, into kind of the unknown and the because it's kind of exciting. But in my opinion, I think you know with the onism theory, when you really start to break some of the things that they're trying to say down, here, let me just, before we leave off, here's just one of the things that you might have missed. Oh, I hope I didn't put it in the older folder. Oh, I think I did. Did I? Anyway, well, I'll just say what it was. Usually I like to pull up my references. In the Frank's motion, down uh, in the bottom, like the cliff notes, it said that the defense theorized because there wasn't any major blood found, that they believed that they saved that blood for future rituals. And when I read that, because I missed that, I noticed I really kind of overlooked all the little cliff notes at the bottom, and I started reading those lately. And when I read those, in my opinion, I just like, oh man, it's a little too much for me. But that's just my opinion, of course. And of course, with the Odinism, when it comes to the defense, you can't blame them. That's probably their best. That's probably their best defense as far as the direction they would have to go, because if Alan's, obviously we don't know the context of Alan's um, confession, which supposedly he confessed, and this is quoted at least 5 times. No, or let's see, it said he confessed no more than at least 5 times. I think it's how it's worded. So, with that confession, obviously it would make sense for them to go after his, supposed health. And then to build on that, they, they obviously, this was true that there was officers at the prison that were wearing some kind of Odin patch. So I'm sure as they were going in to interview their client, they saw that and came up with an idea and said, yeah, this is going to be our basis for, our defense. And I think that's how the Odinism started. And then obviously with the sticks and everything, and then it just kind of built from there. And then that way they can give an argument as to why he confessed. He was being coerced. And to me, for the defense, it makes sense if that's their job. But at the end of the day, Fig made a great point. They didn't go after. Think about Ron Logan and how much, they went out. They suspected Ron Logan in the beginning, and they even, had a probable cause search warrant for him. But yet, the defense never mentioned Ron Logan. They didn't say like, "Oh, it wasn't Alan, it was Ron Logan." They had him. They had the right guy the first time. Or Keegan Klein. They didn't go after any of those guys, which means that they probably don't have much for defense, and this was probably their best direction to go. So anyway, Alan says conspiracy theories draw a lot of attention. They do, but I think it damages the channel's credibility in the long run. But there's many channels that built their stuff on, that kind of stuff, and there's nothing wrong with it. As long as you're doing it, if you're doing it responsible and respectful, there's channels that have done it. It's freedom of speech as long as you're doing it respectfully, I think. But yeah, there's a lot of people that are drawn to it, for sure. But anyway, I'm losing my voice because I'm rambling on here. Need like a co-host or something here. Black Witter, so sorry for poor Chris, and I'm open on his study work, saying, "Men, will you teach each other you're handsome? They think we are only saying it. They need to hear it from you guys. I'm fast asleep." Shh. I gotcha. I appreciate you watching. Poor Black Widow, she is in Dublin, Ireland, where there is some crazy riots going on right now. Hopefully it gets resolved, and I only got to look at it a little bit, but yeah, it's never fun when that stuff's going on. Yeah, you need a Mrs. Chris. I do. Just like Mrs. Steve. Yeah, it would be help. I'd save my voice because I'm rambling on. I just wish I could pull up the comments here. It'd just be easier to kind of read out and everything. Michelle C, thank you so much for becoming a member and supporting the show. Susan Lee, hope you had a good Thanksgiving. We are thankful for you. Thank you so much, Susan Lee, for the $5. We'll be definitely, obviously, Delphi is a big case. I'm always going to be doing videos on it, but of course, we always like to mix it up as well. So I may go live Sunday. We'll probably do a members live this Sunday, and then the next official show will be Monday because I'm going to take a day off tomorrow. So with that, I appreciate everybody's warm welcome and comments. and I'm sorry I can't pull them up. I'll have it fixed next time. I just didn't know there's some kind of update or something with probably Google or something. So with that, I am going to go ahead and close it out. And let me just double check, make sure I didn't miss anything. Of course, just want to special thanks to our wonderful mods who do an amazing job. Dee, Karen, Copper Horse, Jennifer, who is just recovering from surgery, Jocelyn, and I hope I didn't forget anybody. They do such an amazing job on this channel, and hopefully in December we'll do a kind of a special show for them. So with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Hopefully you guys didn't get attacked by the Black Friday mob if you went shopping earlier this morning. And thank goodness for Cyber Monday. That's what I like. So you can shop at the safety of your own home. And there's some really good deals on Cyber Monday. But anyway, yep, we're going to go ahead and end it here. And, God, there's one thing I was going to mention here, but I can't think of it, of course. And I'll think of it when I end the show. Okay, just making sure I didn't miss any messages. All right, guys. If you're a member, we'll have a special members live Sunday. And then if not, we'll see you guys on Monday. Not sure what we cover, but we'll definitely cover the latest. And with that, we're going to play the pet outro. And we'll see you guys next week.